Welcome to Church Around the Corner 2.0 chat. This is chat number 4, and my name is Eric, and you are?
I'm Mark, still Mark. So what's up for our chat number 4 this time, Eric?
Great. Yes. Well, we want to chat more about our values, and because we believe Church Around the Corner 2.0,
2.0.
really, we want to be shaped by our values and have the form be informed and created by the values,
Right.
as opposed to us having certain values and then trying to fit them in a form that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have a wide variety of values that we're going to try to touch on now. The idea of the gospel and the Holy Spirit, talking about something bigger. And then the third one is lifelong learning. How are we going to do that, Mark?
Well, let's think about that in just a short amount of time here. The picture I have is of a stool, and you picture this 3-legged stool. So why don't you ask me what's up with that?
Mark, that's fascinating. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, for a stool to be stable, we need at least 3 legs, right? So the analogy to our spiritual life, if we want to have a stable, healthy spiritual life, we need the right combination of first leg, which is our spiritual growth and our spiritual orientation, leg number 1. The leg number 2 is our house church, small group, shared life together experience, leg number 2.
Okay.
And the bigger all together once a month time, which I call leg number 3.
Great.
Okay,
I can remember that. So leg number 1, our personal spiritual lives.
Yeah, and our orientation.
Okay.
So the idea in this leg number 1, we can't delegate our own spiritual growth to someone else, right? If we're tempted to do that, maybe it's a preacher we like, or a teacher, a guru, a church, house church, a spouse, a friend. No, we are each responsible for our own spiritual health and our spiritual orientation to life. And on our value statement, let me just read it. It says, our primary heartbeat revolves around asking, what does this really have to do with the death and resurrection of Jesus? The sort of the gospel, not so much what is our position on this or that issue, right? So we aim to cultivate more of a contemplative, or what you might say, reflective attitude to stuff that happens. So let's give a practical example. When something happens, let's say you have some conflict with a friend, maybe, or in extreme, you lose your job. But now we often, in our spiritual orientation, will go into management mode with God, and we'll ask God to do something to manage the situation. Now, nothing wrong with that, but we want to encourage us in Church Around the Corner that we develop much more of a sort of reflective orientation and as the starting point. So in this example, rather than first going into management mode, example, say conflict with a friend of some sort, our first orientation would be something like this instead. Hey, God, I just experienced this sort of uncomfortable thing. What is actually going on here? Help me see, God, what you're doing through this in my life and the life of my friend. Where is the Holy Spirit at work in this particular kind of messy situation that we're into?
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Okay, that makes sense. So be proactive about our spiritual life in terms of saying we're responsible.
Yeah.
But also interactive, saying, okay, God, what are you actually doing?
Yeah.
Help me, lead me. Holy Spirit, we're open to what you're doing. Okay, great. All right.
Yeah.
So that's leg number 1.
Yeah, leg number 1. And it's tricky.
It is tricky. Yes, there's no doubt
we're
about
not
that.
pretending it's
Yes,
easy. Right,
yes.
right. And
but leg number 2, tell me more.
Numero 2. Well, leg number 2 that's why that is tricky stuff to do. That's why leg number 2, or our house church small group experience, is so important, where we help one another work through stuff like this. Together, I think we learn to pay attention to where God is at work, where the Holy Spirit is active, and following God into those places, where the gospel is actually happening, where the death and resurrection of Jesus is at work. So, and I think it's kind of tragic that often in Christian circles, people are far more passionate and certain about issues on this and that, pick whatever issue you want, then there is passion about talking about the transformation of the gospel in our lives. I think, and we want to sort of say, no, let's work towards that too, right?
And there's nothing wrong discussion or passionate about issues.
No.
But
No.
what we're trying to say is that they are subservient or
Yeah.
not as strong as saying,
Yeah.
what is God
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
in me and the lives of people around me?
Yeah.
That's the main issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. And I think all we're saying is if we don't submit all that stuff in our life to asking what God is doing through this, right? Then we're just another discussion group, kicking around issues and trying to find our way there. So I think the haunting question we all should live with is this: am I actually experiencing the power of the gospel and the power of the Holy Spirit in my life and our lives, right? That's a haunting question. Because if not, we're just playing religious games, and those are not usually fun games to play, right?
Yeah, agreed. All right, leg number 1, leg number 2. This is leg number 3, Mark.
Numero 3. I know, we're almost there. Yeah,
what is it?
Yeah. Well, that's the all-together time, right? So our individual, our small group experience, and then the all-together time, where the collection of house churches come together once a month, and that's where we celebrate what God is doing. And, where we have seen the gospel at work, where we have fun together, etc., etc.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so let me summarize. This is the 3-legged stool quiz.
It is.
Number 1 is us taking personal responsibility for our spiritual lives, orientation, and moving ahead with that, and being open to saying, God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Number 2 is this small group house church experience where we share our lives with the goal of understanding what God is doing in us and through us.
Yeah, check.
And then leg number 3 is coming all together to celebrate what we have seen God at work and to connect at a broader level with other groups.
10 out of 10, partner. Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah. And we want to be smart when we do this. I mean, you might have heard in high school, secondary schools, or even in universities where that instead of students being in class for the lecture altogether and then working it out in homework alone, right? They put that model on its head. They instead listen to the lecture at home alone, and then together, when they come to class, they do the homework and figure out what it means. And so in the same way, I think that's what we want to strive towards. We want to provide curated, that's been carefully chosen, appropriate content that people can listen to on their own. And then when we get together in a small group, even in the big group, we sort of work out what that means, right? And this is the way I think we want to do and we want to experience that what we call lifelong learning. Right?
Great. Yeah. Okay. I like it. And speaking of being smart, our time is up. So you can listen to this chat and other things and resources at our blog, churcharoundthecorner.blogspot.ca.
Good.
Right. Thank you, Mark. See you next time.